Good afternoon, and once again, welcome to VetNet. My name is Jason Dozier, Manager of Plans and Operations here at Hire Heroes USA, and I'm joined by Veteran Transition Specialist Donny Montgomery out in our Alpharetta, Georgia office, and Randy McSperrin out in Colorado Springs. And today we'll be talking about interviewing. And before we go into the class, we just want to remind you all out there that we do these classes every week at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. This week we'll talk about interviewing. Last week, I believe we talked about resume writing. We do classes on networking, on LinkedIn, on strategic planning, so kind of all the different things you need to do to be successful in your job search. We cover here in these weekly classes on via Google Hangouts. And if you are unable to join us this afternoon, we strongly encourage you to either subscribe to our YouTube page or our Google Plus page and get further notifications about when we do these training events, or it gives you the opportunity to watch our previous videos as well. We also encourage you to sign up for services with us here at Hire Heroes USA. You can do that at hireheroesusa.org, and that way one of our veteran transition specialists, such as Danisha or Randy, will work with you one-on-one and help you through your military transition. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Randy and Danisha.
Right, Randy.
If you just give a quick introduction to yourselves, and then we'll go into the class. Sorry.
Right, Randy,
you start,
begin.
Go ahead, Danisha.
Okay. Well, my name is Donny Montgomery here in Alpharetta, Georgia, as a veteran transition specialist. My background is in retail customer service and also nonprofit and talent acquisition. So what brought me here to Hire Heroes USA is I am a military brat, so civilian, but my father served. Also have several friends and family who have served in the military, and they've just experienced just unnecessary headaches with applying for positions in the civilian sector and also in the federal sector. So I want to bring my expertise to bridge the gap so they can have a successful transition into the workplace. I've learned a thing or two, so I just want to make sure I share that with them as well as you all out there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Randy McSperrin from the Colorado Springs office. I am a veteran transition specialist with Hire Heroes USA. My background is in the U.S. Army. I was in for 11 years, got out, E7, military police, and then I transitioned to the civilian side into law enforcement as well. So I have roughly over 15 years of law enforcement experience that I bring to the table and help out with some of the veterans that are looking to get into law enforcement. One of the issues that I had with transition was thinking that I can do everything on my own, and I was very wrong in that. I didn't want any help. I thought that I could do it on my own. Thought that that no one could tell me anything that I didn't already know, and doing what I'm doing now is great because I can help people that don't make the same mistake that I made. So.
All right, with that said, we're going to get into interviewing because you've slaved over your resume, you've tailored it, you've updated it 101 times, you'll probably update it 101 more times, and the purpose of the resume is to get you the interview. And now the purpose of the interview is to outshine your competition and to land the job. So the goal today for interviewing is we're going to learn some skills that are going to be necessary for you to prepare and to execute a successful interview process. The steps for the interview process include first, during the job search. That's where you're going to research the company, learn more about who they are, what they do, what their position is in the industry, learn about their core values, learn about their culture, learn about the products and services that they offer, who their CEO, their presidents are. Also, tailoring your resume, which we as VTSs cannot stress the importance enough about tailoring the resume for each position that you apply to. Even positions that look very similar. It could be the same title, project manager. However, there's going to be those slight differences within that job description. So make sure you read that closely so you can tailor or gear your resume specifically for that position. The second step is once you've secured the interview. So once you've secured that interview, that's when you want to go into practicing your interviewing skills. You want to familiarize yourself with the questions that are asked during the interview and begin to prepare your answers for how you would approach it. You don't want to come off canned, but you don't want to come off unprepared as well. Also, practicing your value proposition, which we'll get a little bit into that later. Organizing a portfolio, which is a great way to organize your job search, keep everything nice and neat so you can refer back to it. There's some other things in that portfolio that you want to keep that are going to be beneficial for your job search later. Also, going over that research again and just continuing to do more research, because as the company operates, each day new things will come up. Accounts, new employees, just new discoveries, etc. During the interview, this is where it's about staying confident, knowing your value, know what you bring to the table, and selling it. And you also want to refer back to that portfolio, maybe some research during that interview. There'll be references, letters of recommendations, other goodies in that portfolio. And after the interview, there's some professional courtesies that people don't think about, but it can give you an edge after the interview. So it's one of those things. It doesn't hurt to do it, but it actually adds a lot of value. What do you say about that, Randy?
I agree with everything you said, Anisha.
Let's go into the research. As I spoke about before, you want to learn about an organization, because if you're going to dedicate 40 plus hours a week to an organization, you'll see your employees probably more than you see your own family and friends. If you have a dog or a cat, them too. So you want to make sure wherever you're applying for jobs that you really understand what the organization is about, what their position is, the services and products that they offer, and what value you can bring by being an employee there. So go ahead, go on their website, learn about what their mission is, their whole reason for existence, and their vision, where they see themselves 5 years, 10 years, or just overall within the industry. Learn about any current accounts that they're working on, or any current projects, any expansions, acquisitions. What's important to me, because I'm very community conscious, is what's their social responsibility in the community that they serve. So learning that information about, are they partnering with Habitat for Humanity? Are they partnering with Make-A-Wish Foundation? That makes me feel good. I want to be a part of an organization that's socially conscious and giving back to the people that support them. So you can find that information on their website, on their LinkedIn pages, Facebook. A lot of organizations are using social media like Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, and Twitter to get that information out there. It's good PR for them. Also, the clients and the employees. You can go onto LinkedIn, find out who the hiring managers are, find out who those influential people who have hiring decision, or may be able to network, get seen, have your resume passed on to someone who can get you in the organization. Or it's just a great way to learn. If in case there's a position that you are interested in, but you're not quite sure if it's a good fit, don't be afraid to reach out to someone on LinkedIn and pick their brain, because you may find out that, wow, this is exactly where I need to be, or I need to stay far away from this because this is not exactly what I thought. I have a story about that. One of my best friends, when The Biggest Loser, that TV show, first came out, she was all fascinated. They showed the gyms, everyone's, working out. Julia Michaels is working people down to the bone, and it inspired her to want to be a personal trainer. So she ends up just applying to all these gyms to be a personal trainer. She gets in, and she finds out that it's sales. It's not as much of what she saw on The Biggest Loser. It was very much you sell memberships and you sell different proteins or products that they have in the gym. So I say all that to say, if she would have had a contact that she could have reached out to at a 24-Hour Fitness or at a Planet Fitness that could have enlightened her on this is what the life of a personal trainer is, she more than likely would not have applied to that position. And also, when doing research, it's not just about the external research, it's about you researching your soul and researching what's important to you. So have that honest talk with yourself of what are you looking for? What type of culture would be the best fit for you? What are you looking for as far as advancement and pay and the environment? So when researching the external factors of the organization, their mission, their accounts, also take a deep inventory and research of yourself as well. You want to add anything to that, Randy?
The only thing that I'll add is the importance, and you touched on it, is the social media aspect of things, especially LinkedIn. You might not, everybody has their contacts on LinkedIn, and you never know that they might have somebody within their network that is working for that company, so that you're applying for. So you really want to take a look at that and try and connect with them on there and use that as a means to ask them questions, and you may even get your question answered by viewing their profile. So LinkedIn is huge with that, that you never know who is within your network that actually works there that may actually be able to assist you in the interviewing process.
That's a good point. Thanks for adding that. Next, let's talk about the portfolio. So I brought a couple of examples for us to take a look at. This is what a portfolio looks like. Nice leather-bound book with a notepad, pen. You can store business cards on the inside. This is what your portfolio should look like. It should look professional because you are a professional. This is what a portfolio is not. This is a manila folder. This is where you file things. This is an eyesore. Imagine walking in with a nice suit on, your shoes are shining, you have a nice haircut, your tie, everything is perfect. And you walk in with a manila folder and there's papers just hanging out of it. It's like I said, it's an eyesore, it's unorganized, it's not professional. Invest in one of these binders for sure. I think the price point, what would you say, Randy? Maybe $20 or so?
Maybe, yeah. It depends.
Definitely a good investment, and they last a long time, and they're like very functional. So in that portfolio, you want to make sure you have notepad and pen. You want to have business cards, which that's another good investment. You can go to Vistaprint and pick up 500 business cards for $9.99, free shipping and handling. So having those business cards is another great way to network and exchange contact information with someone who you're networking with or someone who may be looking to interview you later or pass on your information. Because it's kind of tough to walk around with a stack of resumes. Let's just be honest. So business cards, nice and compact, and you're able to stay in contact with the individual. References and letters of recommendation. Those are also very important pieces of information that you can keep in your portfolio. Especially after an interview, the interviewer may ask, well, we would like to see a list of your references, and reach out to those. That way you can pull those out of your portfolio and hand those to the interviewer immediately. Very important. If you're going to use someone as a reference, let them know. I've noticed that some people will think, oh, this is my best friend. He's known me since I was younger, or, oh, this should be a great impressive person to put on my letters of references. However, if that person's not expecting your phone call or expecting an interviewer to contact them, if they really don't know you, then this could actually be a disservice to when that interviewer or that company reaches out to your references. So common courtesy, reach out to the people that you want to use as a reference. Give them a heads up. Hey, Randy, I put you down as a reference. I wanted to let you know because the Home Depot, they just interviewed me. Everything went well, so they'll probably be reaching out to you. So please turn off your ringback tone. Please answer your phone appropriately. And make me sound good, man. Please do it for me. And Randy's going to say, you know what, D, I've got you. So those are the things that you want to do when using someone as a reference. The worst thing that can happen is that, like I said, you have this offensive, loud ringback tone. The person answers the phone. You know what to do, or hey, what's up? So, or they're not answering their phone. They're not very responsive. Also, your resume. When interviewing and applying for positions, always have some extra copies of your resume. I recommend 5 extra copies, possibly 10. Also, cover letters. You want to make sure you have copies of your cover letter. If you know the name of all the interviewers, address each cover letter specifically to that interviewer. It shows that you have attention to detail. People like to see their names on documents. And also, it's just one of those kind of common courtesies. Your research, the research that you've done for the company, the mission statements, the vision statements, the accounts that they are working on, their special projects, their community responsibility. That research is for you. So you don't have to worry about it being nice and neat and handing it to any interviewers. That's just for you to refer back to, and you can keep that in your portfolio. Also, a copy of the job description. Again, you're applying to minimally 20 jobs per day. So all these jobs are going to start possibly just running together. So this way, if there's any positions that you're applying to and you have very good leads, you can make contact with recruiters or hiring managers. Print out that job description and put it in your portfolio, because when you interview, you're speaking to that job description. So you want to be able to refer back to that job description. So whatever you say, it directly connects to that job description and you're adding value. I'm going to go into the tips for all interviews. Here's a major statistic, is that 85% of the reason people are able to get jobs and keep their jobs and move ahead is based on their interpersonal skills. I believe that 100%. I wouldn't doubt if that figure's higher, but I'm going to trust the Hire Hero slide. So we're going to talk about those senses. So let's start with sight, what we see. I always like to say you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So when someone sees you, they're already sizing you up. So with that, in interviewing, if you're applying to a position that's a retail store kind of position, it's very casual, employees are wearing khaki pants, maybe they're even wearing jeans, you want to go by the company standard +1. So what that means is what they wear on a daily basis, you want to one-up them. Come in business casual. If they're wearing jeans, put on some nice slacks, put on some nice khakis, a nice shirt that's ironed and clean, and you want to just one-up that. What do you say about that, Randy?
Definitely. Your initial the perception that you give off right off the jump, the initial steps in going in there, they're already going to form an opinion about you just based off of how you're dressed. Me being a law enforcement officer, having to be in front of the public all the time, if I had my pistol belt on and it was loosely hanging, or my uniform was dirty, I had a mustard stain on there because I used to get those a lot. But if anything like that, the general public wouldn't take you seriously. They think this guy doesn't care about his appearance, he doesn't care about his job. So it was important, the better you looked, the more professional you looked, and it looked like you had all your stuff together. I used to have many suspects that would try and run on me or anything like that, but the ones that didn't, they were like, well, he looked like he knew what he was doing. So it is as important as that is in that aspect of things. Think about that in interviewing. The second you walk in there, they're going to formulate an opinion on you. So if you come in there, you got your suit on and you're missing a button or something like that, they're going to pick up on that. They're going to pick up on those little things. So make sure that you're good to go.
That's true. Also, you want to err on the conservative, neutral side. So I'll speak for women in the sense of stay away from excessive jewelry. Bangles are beautiful, but they're distracting. Stay away from large hoop earrings, from makeup that could be distracting, any loud color makeups, any lipsticks that are just super bright red or green or purple, or because it's spring now, lavender. So staying away from just bold colors. And also, we need to have an honest conversation that leggings are not pants. So do not wear leggings to interviews. Do not wear short shorts. Stay away from the stilettos. So those items they're not professional. And you want to give off a professional appearance when interviewing, and also for your career, because things like that can hinder your career. They can hold you back if you give off the wrong impression. And you also want to smile. You don't want to come off as being cold. You want to show that you're a good fit, that you're friendly, that you're going to be likable, because nobody wants to invite a grumpy pants into their organization, or someone that's going to cause drama, or that looks like that they're just coming in to wreak havoc. You want to smile, you want to be friendly, and the smile is honestly the best accessory that you can wear with anything. sound. You want to speak clearly. You want to stay away from those filler words, which I've probably used many of them, so don't hold it against me. But you want to stay away from the hums and the ahs. I know in our society that we become uncomfortable with the pause, but it's okay. If you need to think about your thoughts or think about what you want to say, take the time, pause, and then say it, because you don't want the fillers to become too much of a distraction. And avoid hot topics. So I mentioned I'm in Alpharetta, Georgia, which is similar to Atlanta, Georgia in geographic. However, we don't talk about religion, politics, and SEC football. Those things are hot topics. People will fight you. But in all seriousness, you want to stay away from those things, because individuals become very passionate about those hot topics, about your political affiliation, your religious affiliation, and even about sports teams. So in the interview, your job is to sell why you're the best candidate for the job and why they need your skill set and your expertise. So stay away from hot topics. As far as smoking and any kind of perfumes or scents, please, if you have an interview that day, just stay away from smoking before the interview, and a simple shower and bath should suffice instead of pouring excessive amounts of perfume or colognes. There are some interviewers who have allergies. They have different triggers to scents. So the worst thing you could do is know that this job is for you. It's what you've been waiting for. However, the smoke scent is on you, or the perfume or the cologne. And the problem is now when they think of you, they're going to think of that smell. And then that smell's going to then go into, it made me sick. So you don't want that type of connection. The connection you want is that this person is brilliant. They're exactly what we need in the organization. Not that they made me sick because they smelled a certain way. And also, I just found out too that there are some organizations that have very strict no smoking policies. So with that said, to walk into an interview smelling like smoke and that organization has that kind of policy or clause, that could basically just ruin your chances for employment. Now, also we're going to talk about the fidgeting. You want to, be still, be confident, but you don't want to twist your fingers or rock your chair or slouch down. You also want to maintain eye contact, because the eye contact also reflects, that you're confident and that you're able to speak to someone and you have good people skills. And also you want to be an active listener. You don't want to be passive. You want to be very active and engaged in the conversation. Did I hit on everything, Randy?
Yes, you did.
For specific interviews, there's 3 types. You have your in-person interview, you have your phone interview, and you also have your video interview. Now, most common, we know of the in-person interviews. So you have the solo, which is a one-on-one with an interviewer. You have the group interview, more than one. And then you also have your panel, which is becoming more and more common. One thing I would like to say about the panel interview is if there's 3+ people on a panel or in a group, and one of the interviewers asks you a question, you want to make sure you speak to that interviewer as well as the other interviewers in the room. Everyone interviewing you has influence for that hiring decision. So you don't want to leave anyone out. You want to make sure you speak to the person who asked the question, but you also want to speak and keep everyone else in that room engaged with you. Turn your phone off when interviewing. Don't even put it on vibrate. Just put it all the way on silent. Know your location. The worst thing to do is to be late to an interview. My recommendation, 10 to 15 minutes ahead of time that you should arrive. And better yet, if you have an interview on Wednesday, go ahead and make that drive on a Monday and Tuesday and see what that commute's going to be like, just so you'll have a realistic expectation and you can time it and still get there early. Because to walk in directly at your scheduled time, is not good. You're basically late at that point. Avoid the fidgeting as always. For phone interviews, take these very seriously. It may appear to be just a casual conversation or a phone screening. However, it's an interview, so you want to treat it seriously. You want to be professional. Make sure you have good phone reception. If you know your cell phone or landline is having some issues, it's okay to provide an alternate number. Make sure your voicemail is professional, and make sure you have a voicemail. I call vets quite often, and they're not set up, or it's just something that's very unprofessional, or it's that robotic voicemail. So for all of those, I say, first of all, set up your voicemail, because if a manager needs to contact you and you're not available, they want to be able to leave a message and they want to speak with you. So make sure your voicemail is accessible. Secondly, for the unprofessional voicemails, get rid of it. Get rid of that unprofessional voicemail and record in your voice and speak clearly and slowly. Record that so they can get a glimpse of what your voice is like and how you speak, how you communicate. And for the automated, where's the robot voicemail, I again say don't use that. Use your own voice, because when a manager or recruiter is making several calls throughout the day, they want to make sure they reach the right person as well. So they may just be dialing, and they're dialing numbers, but they've dialed so many, it may just kind of, mesh together. So this way, if they hear your name, they know that they've reached the right person, they dialed the right number. Also, be aware of the background noises. You want to stay away from, if it's a loud environment, if you have any, animals in the back, if there's, excuse me, if there's just any kind of background noise that can be a distraction. It'll be a distraction to that interviewer, and more than likely it'll be a distraction to you as well. For video, which is becoming more and more common because there's job seekers applying for jobs that are out of state. So instead of just paying for a flight, paying for hotel, paying for car rental, organizations are now investing into video interviews, Skype interviews. So with that, you want to make sure you frame your face where it's very professional. They can see who you are. Also, making the camera contact, making sure that the equipment is tested and it operates properly. You don't want to have any kind of, downtime or error messages or some troubleshooting issues. So ensuring that your computer, your internet connections, making the right contact, and that the camera works properly. You want to do that before the interview. Also, you want to be aware of the background noises and things behind you. You want to have that video interview or video conference in a room where there's nothing that's going to distract the interviewer. So for example, if I'm interviewing Randy, I wouldn't want to see, behind the back of his head a ton of family photos. Even though I like family and I like photos, that might be distracting. I might end up kind of, zoning out and looking at his family vacation pictures. So you just want to make sure that the attention is on you, how professional you look, and the words that you speak and the value that you bring. And this isn't on the slide, but maybe we should add that on there. You want to dress from head to toe for a video interview. That includes wearing pants. So don't try to get away with just wearing a shirt. Randy, you're laughing, but it's so true. It's happened before, but there's job seekers that will wear a button-down shirt and tie and a jacket, and they look nice, but they don't have pants. So the funny thing is, in talent acquisition, we've known that a couple of people have not worn pants in the past, so now it just becomes just this game of making the job seeker get up to go grab a piece of paper, to get up to go grab maybe a certificate or maybe some kind of documentation to see how that person reacts. So, of course, if they try to slide down and scooch to the right, they probably don't have pants. So, again, just from top to bottom, make sure that you are professionally dressed, because it's become kind of like something comedic to see if the interviewer or the interviewee doesn't have full attire. Anything you want to add to that, Randy?
I'm wearing pants.
You are? Okay.
Anyway, no. As far as you hit on that. I mean, your answers are going to change too when you're dressed professionally. If you're dressed professionally over the phone, you're going to answer questions in a professional manner. If you're dressed in your pajamas and you're hanging out in your fuzzy bunny slippers, you're going to answer questions just in that nature. So it helps you get it's a mental thing. It helps you get into the right frame of mind. And as far as the background visuals and stuff like that, same thing goes for you. You want to be in an area to where, as you're speaking into the Skype or the webcam or whatever it is, make sure you have all your extra windows closed on your computer. You don't have your email up. You don't have anything that's distracting that's gonna have your eyes go towards that. Or you're in a room that's going to have a lot of distractions, something that constantly gets your eyes going towards that, such as a window, and every time a car drives by, you look away. You're looking through that window instead of looking through the webcam. So make sure you're putting yourself into a position or a room that the distractions aren't there for you as well as for the viewer.
Mm-hmm. Let's go into the sample questions a little bit. These are the most commonly asked questions in an interview, and most of you all, I'm sure, have gone through these questions before and you're quite familiar with them. The first one is, can you please tell me about yourself? When answering this question, this is where you refer back to what that job description was, and you're speaking value to who you are, what you bring to the table, and how that ties into the position that you're applying to. Do not answer this question based on, oh, well, my name's Donny Montgomery, I like long walks on the beach, my next vacation, I hope to go to Jamaica. That's not exactly what they want to know about you. They want to know, again, about your professional skills and the value, again, that you're going to be bringing to the organization and what makes you qualified for the position and what your skill sets are. What about this job interests you? That's going to be another question. What are your career goals? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why are you leaving the military? With that one, I've seen that answered in a number of ways. Some vets will answer that they've had their career in the military, they're looking for something different, they're looking for something more stable so they can be close to their family, but they also want to be able to implement their management supervisory skills as well as whatever else those skills fall into. Your strengths and weaknesses. This is always a tricky one. So not so much the strengths, but the weaknesses. But remember, you want to keep that job description in mind and speak to what this job needs and what strength do I have that's going to add value to that job description. For the weakness, you never want to say a weakness that directly reflects the job. If the job is customer service, the worst thing you could say as a weakness is, I don't like people very much. I prefer cats. That's probably one of the worst things that you could say. However, if you're applying for a customer service position, a weakness you could say is, you know what, I've been told that, I'm very passionate about my work, so sometimes it can be a little difficult to delegate responsibilities because I just take ownership of everything I touch. However, that's something I have been working on, and I understand that this is a team environment, and I have to rely back on my team to ultimately accomplish the goals set by the organization. So in that response, I kind of made like a sandwich. I didn't want to leave off on something negative. I mentioned, per se, a weakness, but I turned it back around into something that could be seen as a positive, but also that you are working towards. So it's not that red flag weakness. It's more so this is something that I know that I need to work on, and I'm actually aware of it, and I am working on it. Randy, you want to add to that weakness one? Because this question trips up a lot of people.
It does, and a lot of folks get the ones that I hear back from they get asked this question and they're like, I can't think of anything. And that's think of something. Think of something. If you can't find anything that is a weakness of you that is pertaining to that specific job, then find something that is a weakness that you have. It could be something as simple as math. I am terrible at math, always have been. Numbers make me break out into cold sweats. I just don't do it. I don't do math. But you could say something like, math is a weakness of mine, but I'm currently enrolled into college classes, and I've been strengthening my math skills through the various classes that I've had to take. Something as simple as that is showing that you're improving in those areas that you identify as a weakness. It is incredibly important for you to identify your weaknesses. If you don't identify your weakness, you can't get any better. So you should do some self-reflecting beforehand and going in there. And sometimes it's good just to go ask your friends. If you got friends like mine, they'll tell you what your weakness is. So, ask around, ask other people, find out what your weakness is, and just think of ways how you can improve that.
I like that. Are your friends, do you have to ask them, or do they just voluntarily tell you?
Oh, they just tell me all the time.
My friends, too. I think we have the same pool of friends. The next question of, have you ever been in a conflict with anyone, like a superior or a colleague, and how did you handle that? With that question, that's one where you always want to make sure you have at least 2 or 3 stories that you could tell about a situation and how you overcame the situation. Also, this question is a great way for an employer to understand your thought process, how you would take steps to process something, or how you would take steps to resolve. And why should we hire you? That's the whole reason why you're there. You're there to tell them what your qualifications are and what you're going to bring to the organization. And that job description, which is filled with needs, is you can fulfill every need in that job description. So again, make sure, I can't stress that enough, know that job description so you can speak to that job description, because that job description is basically what they want. That's the problems that they have, and you're coming in to say, these are your problems, I'm your man or woman. I can resolve all of that for you, and that's why you should hire me, because I'm the best qualified. Want to touch on anything else, Randy?
No, I'm good.
All right, the value proposition. This is your 30-second statement about who you are, what you're good at, and why you're going to be an asset to the company. If you take a look at your resume, that's going to be the very first thing. We call it 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds, because if you're just glancing at it, your eyes are looking for keywords, key phrases, and numbers. However, when you speak it, it may come out to be about a 30-second, you could say, commercial about who you are. It's like your brand, per se. So you want to be able to recite this to someone in case they ask you the question, because they will. Tell me about yourself. So with that, I could say that I'm a community outreach professional. I have over 15 years of experience in community and corporate engagement, project coordination, fundraising, and also special events. At Hire Heroes USA, I've mentored over 300 military veterans. I've offered over 3,000 career counseling sessions, resume revisions, and strategic job searches. I've networked with well over 200 organizations, including United Way, including Hands-On Atlanta, Department of Labor, and Georgia Department of Health Services. So as you see, I'm speaking about who I am, which is that community outreach specialist. I'm giving you a snippet of what my specialties are: fundraising, special events, community and corporate engagement. Then I go into my value. I've mentored over 300 military veterans. I've also provided over 3,000 career counseling sessions, resume revisions, strategic job searches, and I can even put in an accomplishment there and say I've helped veterans secure, or helped almost 100 veterans secure employment at my time at Hire Heroes USA. I'm also a networker, and I wanted to show that value by saying I've networked with over 100 community partners, and I've named off some of those organizations because several of them are identifiable, especially in Georgia or just in that industry for community outreach. So that's a little bit of the value proposition. It takes time to really get comfortable with reciting it, and it may change depending on which jobs that you apply to. But again, it's knowing who you are and what you're good at, and speaking about the value that you're going to bring to an organization. Would you like to add anything about that value proposition?
No, you hit everything on the head.
Did you like my 30-second commercial?
I did not. No. No, that was good. That was really good.
So practice makes perfect, as they say, or practice makes you more confident. So with that said, we have a tip sheet of interview questions that we could provide for you. Give that to your friends and family. Like Randy said, he has some friends that they'll tell him, about what his weaknesses are, or they'll just be honest with them because they want to see him being successful in his job search. Well, you're not looking now, but at that time, So, but when going through the mock interview and looking for a job, you need somebody who's going to give you that honest feedback before you go in, and it really matters. So have a friend sit down with you. Have them pick out 5 questions or so for you to answer. Go through the interview like it's the real thing, and then be ready for the honest feedback. Also at Hire Heroes USA, we have a mock interview process that we believe in, and I wish more of our vets would take advantage of. You can reach out to Randy and I or a veteran transition specialist, and what we would do is have you complete a form. You would send a job that you're interested in along with your resume. Connect with a hiring professional in that industry. So in case you're looking for something in healthcare, in case you're looking for something in IT, we can connect you with someone in that industry so you'll get that industry specific experience and questions and answers and interaction. Because again, this is just to get you more polished and more confident about the actual interview when it comes. And they'll provide that feedback for you. And one thing about our mock interview is over 55% of the veterans who've gone through our mock interview process, they've landed jobs. So it is an added benefit, and it shows that those individuals who've taken advantage of it, it's actually helped them along their job search and their interview process so they could get the job. For your military experience, you can speak about it in a vague way. You can get as detailed as you like, or you can deflect. So it just depends on what questions are asked, how you really want to approach this. So as far as deployments, you can be as vague or detailed, or you can deflect. In this case, you could say that the expensive foreign experience and successful missions executed really added to the job that you're applying to. As far as relocation, you could say, I have a network of friends worldwide, so I'm eager to ground my roots now with the ABC organization as a operations manager. And I believe what I've learned along the way in these different countries and different cities is going to allow me to ... And for gaps of employment, I usually don't like to get too detailed about that because most gaps from what I've experienced with military spouses, usually, that's from moves, or it could be personal. It could be some family matters. So as far as that, you could keep it vague and bring it back to that you're ready for the job. So in this case, you have a gap of employment. Well, I was addressing some personal issues. Everything is resolved, at this time, and I'm confident and I'm ready and I'm excited to get back into the workforce. And I feel that my experience in logistics and in transportation management would be a great fit for your organization. So as you see, they touched it without going into too many details. And they brought it right back to, that happened, but I'm ready now, and I'm confident, and I know that my experience is what you're looking for in your organization. Randy?
As far as the like deployments and as far as that's concerned, you got to kind of be careful on what you touch on and what you don't on there. Especially that's why it's good to deflect if necessary. There are certain things that employers can and cannot ask about you being a combat veteran. I know for a fact they can be asking questions about PTSD or anything like that. You are protected legally from those types of questions. And also, if they're asking questions like that, you might want to take a second look at if that's a place that you want to work or not. But as far as deployments and everything, you got to keep in mind you don't know the people that you're interviewing with, and you don't know what might offend them and what might not. So if they're anti-war, they might not want to hear about the war. If they're anti-gun, they don't want to hear about everything about you doing anything with weapons or anything like that. So keep those things in mind when going in there and you're talking about your deployments and stuff. So try and use more civilianized terms. Maybe instead of words like missions, maybe assignments, something of that nature. Something that's going to kind of bring it down more civilianized terms to where you're still capturing what you did, because it's important of what you did. It's not to take away from that, but it's to try and shed a different light on it and speak about it in a different way that grabs their attention, not necessarily puts them off.
And I'm glad you mentioned that too, about the deployments and the wars and so forth too. Like you said, that's another one of those hot topics out there as well too. And you got to be kind of mindful and just be prepared for some recruiters or some interviewers. The only connection they have to military is what they see on TV. There's some that have the perception that you run around in boot camp every day or you're Rambo, and that's not the case. So sometimes interview can take that turn, and you want to make sure that you're just equipped on how you answer that. More so, there's going to be times where you need to deflect, and then you also want to evaluate, is this the type of organization that I want to be a part of? And they're going to ask me questions about PTSD and war, or any type of, what was the end result of the war, things like that. During the interview, you have to ask questions. We talked about being an active listener. I also want to be very engaged. So refer back to notes. As that interviewer is talking, don't be afraid to open up your binder and start jotting down some notes, because your nerves may be high. They may say something that's, again, very significant that you might want to revisit later on in the conversation. So again, be active listening, but also be engaged and taking notes during that interview. And you want to have an exchange. You don't want the interviewer to do all the talking. You want them to engage. And ask questions at the end. The worst thing you can do is not say anything. There's always something that you need to know or that you can ask at the end of the interview. For example, you want the job, right? So you want to know, how soon are you looking to fill this position? Or what are the next steps in this hiring process? That's a great question to ask. One of my favorites to ask is there anything about my experience or my background that you would like for me to clarify for you? The reason I like that question is because in the interview, the nerves are high. You know what you want to say before you get into the interview, but once you sit down and you're face to face with that person, then those thoughts they leave you. And after the interview, you think, oh man, I was supposed to ask this, or I should have said this instead. So, and also in the interview, you may have the story of what you want to say, but it might not come out well. You might not be able to articulate it the way you need to. So with the question of, is there anything about my experience I can clarify for you? This will allow that interviewer to say, well, you know what, you were mentioning something about Operation Iraqi Freedom, and you were working in motor transport. Can you tell me about that? I just got a little bit lost. Or can you just go into details about that? That gives you a chance now to clear up what was once foggy. So we want to leave them with no doubt before we leave that interview. We want to leave them with the impression that you're the right person for the job, and everything that came out of your mouth added value to why you are the one that should be getting that position. There's a disconnect however, that between employers and vets. So you may hear that organizations, they're not serious about hiring vets. They just want to raise their flags and they want to put the stickers on the car, but they're not interested in hiring vets. It's not true. Employers, they really do want to hire wounded, ill vets, injured service members. However, 70% of them, of vets, and for the MBI. 41% don't know where to go for accommodations. And 58% believe that applicants must tell them what exactly their disabilities are, which is not true. So the best thing you can do as a veteran is to be your own advocate. Know your rights. Know what should be stated, like Randy said. Know what needs to be said or brought up in an interview and how you're going to react to that, answer it, or deflect. So only you can be your best advocate in that interview. And with that said, do the research. We can't stress the research enough for your job search. The Civil Rights Act, we're all very familiar with that one, about sex, religion, color, national origin, even sexual orientation. For the Vietnam era veterans, Readjustment Assistance Act. That one focuses on the effort for federal contractor employees to where they have an initiative to seek out military veteran organization. For Americans with disabilities, we're familiar with that one as well, to where they can't discriminate against you for having a disability, and also that the employer should make reasonable accommodations for those with disabilities. And the Uniform Services Act is where if you have employment and you get called to duty or back in laws. And also with handling disability or demographic, and they want your skill sets. They appreciate what you've done for this country, so they're willing to make those accommodations. They have more than likely individuals in their HR and in their leadership roles who are very military conscious and educated. Know what questions can be asked and what can't be asked. And also, we said be prepared for when the questions come up. How are you going to address that? How are you going to show that you're not uncomfortable? How do you feel about bringing a service animal into an interview? How do you deflect? Randy?
I'm good, Anisha.
Salary negotiation. So the government sector, military sector versus a civilian sector, sometimes the money doesn't add up. And it's not sometimes. The pay scales are so different. You have, if you're overseas or serving a contract, there's possibly tax-free money there in the military. You don't have to worry about the clothing, you don't have to worry about the housing, the insurances, etc. So just that pay scale from civilian sector to government sector, it's going to differ. So you can use resources like Glassdoor.com, which is a great tool to use. You're able to put in your city and state and either the employer or a job title. So operations manager for Atlanta, Georgia. What's the range? And that gives you a better idea of how much you could negotiate salary for. I have a story of one of my vets. He really wanted a job at Verizon Wireless as a store manager. And he had the interview, they liked him, asked him for salary. He wanted $90,000 as a store manager, upfront base. See, Randy already knows. So he did not get the job. They immediately said, thank you for your time. We're going to have to pursue other candidates. So I speak to him later, and he didn't understand exactly why they wouldn't go for $90,000 salary. And I asked him, did he do his research? He did not do his research. So of course I have to ask, well, why did you ask for so much money? He says, I want my money all up front. So, moral of the story, if he would have done his research, he could have negotiated for a salary of probably 70,000 or so, probably 65,000 for a store manager at a Verizon store. In that corporate environment, you're paid based on performance. So when your sales reps add new lines, upgrade phones, sell you car chargers for $30 each, sell you that case that's going to pop off as soon as you drop the phone. Then once they sell you those things and meet and exceed their goal, now the manager gets paid bonus off of his sales rep, his team. So he would have more than likely made 90,000 or 100,000 depending on the performance of his store. However, he wanted his money up front. That's not how that store paid. So know the cost of living, understand what your needs are. We know you need a job. We don't want you to just take anything. I would never, if you need $45,000 a year, I would never tell you to take a $8 an hour job, because that will probably cause you more debt or liability. Also understand the market value. You can negotiate other things outside of salary. That's something I learned in talent acquisition. It's not always about negotiating your salary. You can sometimes negotiate your commute. If you work maybe 4 days in the office instead of 5, there might be a gas allowance. There may be room for advancement, perks for the gym, for childcare, for benefits, for signing bonus, for maybe a higher commission structure of some sort. So play around with that. Do the research. See what the company offers, because you may be able to not negotiate the salary, but negotiate something else in there that adds value. I know for a lot of people, just having the option to work from home would be beneficial. So if they could negotiate that, they would jump on a job quickly. And also, you can deflect. If you're not ready to answer that question, then you can have that employer just tell you more about the opportunity, which is a great idea anyway, because you don't want to throw a number out without really understanding what the job entails and what their compensation structure typically looks like. Because you don't want to lowball yourself, but you also don't want to go so high that you basically kind of eliminate yourself from the process. If they want to give you a number, or if they want you to provide a number to them, again, that's where you've done your research and you give them that range. All right, Randy, what do you think? Negotiation is tough. It's actually scary. I think I'm breaking out in sweats thinking about negotiation.
It's numbers. I'm not doing good with it already.
It's the math.
Yeah, I don't. I've never negotiated salary. I never have. The 2 jobs that I did have, that was an option. I was just happy they were going to pay me. So, but yes, everything out there is negotiable. And do your, like she said, like Denisha said, do your research. In the military, they throw extra money at you. You're not necessarily going to make what you were making in the military coming out of it. More so as far as the senior leadership is concerned, and their senior NCOs, senior officers, you're not necessarily going to walk right into a job that's going to be paying you the same thing that you were making when you were in the military. The lower ranking, lower enlisted and stuff, sometimes they do come in at a higher rate, just because what they did in the military, they got paid peanuts compared to what they actually get paid the civilian side. So there's a in between section there where it kind of flip flops over to the other side. So understand that you now have to pay for insurance. You now have to pay for all these extra things, the medical, dental, vision. All these things are now coming out of your paycheck. So negotiations are huge in that, they may hit you right at the salary that you're wanting, or they may even be offering you the max range of their salary already just because they know you're a good candidate. And that's where you got to understand that where you're living is, that's a high range for that specific job. So now I'm going to negotiate benefits or negotiate being able to work from home or something of that nature just because they've already maxed out on me for pay.
Mm-hmm. And after the interview, there's that professional courtesies. You want to send a thank you letter 24 hours tops after that interview. It's a great way to show that you have manners because in this day and age where everybody is fighting for jobs and applying, I guess you should be very thankful that you have the interview offered to you. So you want to make sure you just thank them for their time and their attention. It's a great way to also sell yourself and revisit maybe something that was said in the interview to show that you were listening and also that you can be that. If they're looking for someone to come in and just pick up this department and lead us to success, then you want to make sure that you speak to that in that thank you card. Handwritten or email. If you have nice handwriting, definitely go ahead with a handwritten note because who gets those anymore? Let's be honest. So to receive a handwritten note will make you stand out. That shows time and attention. If you don't have great handwriting, then I say send a nice professional email. But again, within 24-hour window because you want to stay fresh on their mind. And I've seen where the thank you letter can give you the edge, where that's something that someone said, you know what, I like how they operate. That made me feel good. I want to bring them on. Also, follow up. If they specify that they're going to follow up with you in a week or two and you haven't heard from them, don't be afraid to follow up with them. It doesn't hurt at all because things happen. Maybe something fell through the cracks. Maybe they're interviewing other people. Could be a hiring freeze. But again, if you haven't heard from them within a week or two and you know that's the time that they're going to be selecting talent, then go ahead and reach out to them. You want to add anything to that thank you letter? I'm a big fan.
Yes, I think the thank you letter, until I started working here, I didn't even think about doing a thank you letter. And I look back on a lot of the jobs that I did apply for and interviewed for. If I would have done that, would that have made a difference? I've heard back from veterans that have done it that it did make a difference. They were actually told that after the fact, after getting the job. But one thing to keep in mind when you're doing the handwritten thing, the whole process, the whole idea of that is to make it as personal in nature as possible. So if you're in that interview and you establish a personal connection with the hiring manager for that, then mention that in the thank you letter. Me applying for this position here, Spencer Milo, who was the hiring manager doing the interview, him and I both share a passion for dogs. He's got a service animal, and my dream job is to open up a dog rescue. So therefore, we established a very personal connection on a common ground. I mentioned that in the thank you letter. Hey, it was great talking to somebody that shared the same passion as I did about dogs. That helps bring that personal touch to it. As Denisha said, no more than 24 hours. I always recommend if you're going to do a hiring or a handwritten one after the interview, leave the interview, go to Starbucks, have a coffee, handwrite it, think about what you're doing, make sure it's legible, everything like that, and then take it right back and try and get it to their hands or on their desk or something that day. That way you get it to them right away. There's no delay in it. I'm not a big fan of the ones that bring them with them to the interview and leave them on the desk after the interview, just because there's no personal touch in that. That's just basically, hey, thanks, and I'm out the door. So that's all I got, Anisha.
That's a good tip. Definitely just stay in the neighborhood, go to Starbucks, fill it out, bring it back. Good idea. And with that said, those are the tools that we mentor and tell our vets to implement when job searching and interviewing, which, as Randy mentioned, these tools can be very successful for your job search. Thank you cards help give you an edge. He thought back, if I could have just maybe sent that thank you letter, maybe that would have gotten me in the door sooner. So definitely look over these tools, look over these techniques, and see the value in them because it works. It's such a competitive market nowadays that you want to make sure that everything you're doing adds value. It's not just about a resume, and it's not just about getting in front of someone and shooting the breeze. It all has to be strategic, it all has to add value, and it all has to make you shine. So that's all we have. Any questions out there? I think that's it.
Crickets.
Any closing remarks, Randy?
I got nothing. You did a great job, Denisha.
You did too. You're an awesome wingman. Well, that's going to do it for